Hello everybody, welcome back, and the top is in for Bitcoin. Well, for the most immediate situation, the top is in. I would imagine that we are going to pull back and ricochet. So last night we were doing a Patreon live stream. We were sitting basically at the Bollinger Band Centre here on the 4-hourly, and that's where we were looking for a bounce. Obviously we haven't received it. So the next area for a bounce, is between 1, 2, 3 and potentially even 4. 104,500, maybe. I'm going to say it definitely is, maybe. We've still got the trend signal, which is still in play, provided we stay above this candle. That's why I've highlighted it. So the rule of the trend signal is if we see the cheeky spend close inside the price action, the trend is cancelled. But at the moment it hasn't, and if we were to see a close inside the candle, it has to be 104,500-ish area or lower. The daily is 106, down to 102, and also could even sustain 92,000. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's more likely to find a bounce around 1, 2, 3, or 4, which would narrowly avoid the itchy clouds trend signal from cancelling, and then ricochet and bounce from this golden cross retest. We've started to get some hidden bullish divergence as well, which is good as well. So you want to see a couple of these on the way down into a support. So we've got one now. Maybe we see one, tomorrow, or it's Friday tomorrow, isn't it already? So that's what you'd be looking for: bullish divergence into supports, and supports live on the 4-hourly. This one's lost, so we've got this, or this. And the trend signal on the weekly is good. Now, a long story short, we do the patrons twice a week, and last night we were looking at loads of altcoins and stuff like that. Most altcoins look the same. This is the problem with the majority of them. But there were a few of them that were slightly different. But even with the majority, and they're all looking, like I say, relatively similar and not that exciting on a 4-hourly. Not even particularly bullish on a daily. The one thing that most of them still had, surprisingly, I don't want to just go out and indiscriminately buy altcoins. Yeah, I suppose you'd have to know the altcoins that I'm talking about, but there was a fair few. If you looked at the weeklies actually were quite good. Again, a decent portion of the ones we looked at last night. I suppose you've got to be in the Patreon to know about it, haven't you, really? You've got to be in it to win it. But, just off the top of my head, there was things like XRP and Pepe and SUI. I can't remember them all. But they were there. And the weeklies were pointing to one general direction, which is up, which kind of mimics the way, and they don't look as good as this, but it mimics the way that I expect the total 2 to behave, which actually makes perfect sense, because based on a weekly, the total 2 is actually really quite bullish. Being above all moving averages, just pushing this last level of resistance before we're getting ready to break out and move into what I think is the peak in September this year. But no altcoin is created equal. They're all different, but this is the guide for altcoins. Although if you look at individual altcoins like we did last night, not all of them look like they're going to perform at all. Some do, some don't, and some are not quite so sure. But anyway, I think the main thing to take away from all of it is that we're likely to see a pullback now. Maybe that continues throughout tomorrow. And all we're looking to see is supports get tagged on 4-hourlies on the bullish charts. And remain above certain areas on the weeklies so long as they've got that bullish presentation. Now, for Ethereum, the next area down, 2,712. And below that, 2,644. Below that, 2,608, 2,570, and finally 2,489. Now, I don't know or think that it's going to come down to that level, but if it did come down to that level, it would still be bullish. It'd actually be a decent opportunity to try. Now on the daily, we have a trend signal in play on the itchy cloud, and that will be in play for the rest of the day, provided we can stay above 2,550, which is also, reasonable because the centre of the Bollinger Band is 2,600, so plenty of areas to bounce and move back up and continue with this daily trend signal. So Ethereum is still looking good as well. I know. What about the end of the cycle, guys? Do you remember all of that? Do you remember how crazy that was a couple of months ago? It's the end of the cycle. It's all over. Bitcoin is dead. New all-time high around the corner. Let's see. So, I mean, I will just leave it there. I have nothing much more to say about it. Again, if you want to join the Patreon, we can look at lots of individual altcoins as we do twice a week. Otherwise, just keep coming to me in the morning. We'll have our market overview, yeah. Again, there's really not much more to say because the whole idea that I have now is the same that I've had for a couple of years, which is that we are about to move into this peak, September. Allow for that peak to be created on a weekly, which means on like days like today, it's probably best to just retire for a little bit, just go to bed or do something else. Don't look at the charts, and then just allow for it to resolve, because I believe very strongly that it will, based on the chart. Not a belief. It's not the flying spaghetti monster. This is risk versus reward. This is structure of a chart. This is trend signal on itchies. This is above all moving averages. This is carbon copy of a cycle time frame. There's a lot of reasons to believe why it's going to go up. I suppose it does take an element of faith, really, to use technical analysis, but because there is no guarantees either way. But between now and September, we should be higher than our last high, and so the majority of altcoins should have benefited from this chart performing that way. Although if you want to look at your altcoin portfolio, the individual altcoins don't have these higher highs and high low structures over the last couple of years, then maybe you need to have a little think about what you're going to do with that, because you should be in altcoins which have created high highs and high lows, because if you haven't been in altcoins that have created higher highs and high lows, you're probably in the wrong altcoins. Although you should be forgiven between now and September, it could have been better for you. Anyway, I'll leave it with you there. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.